You are listening to the Drink Less Lifestyle podcast with Dr. Sherry Price, episode number 133.
Welcome to Drink Less Lifestyle, a podcast for successful women who want to change their relationship with alcohol. If you want to drink less, feel healthier, and start loving life again, you're in the right place. Please remember that the information in this podcast does not constitute medical advice. Now, here's your host, Dr. Sherry Price.
Well, hello, my epic friend. Today on the podcast, I have a very, very, very special guest. My guest is my amazing and fun friend, Lizzie, who's joining me to talk about all things EpicYOU. I know many of you wonder what it's like inside of EpicYOU and what would I experience? Is this a place for me? Or is this a place where people just come and complain about their problems? Or maybe you even think it's a place where we talk just all things drinking. So I invited Lizzie on the podcast today to talk about all things inside of EpicYOU since she is an expert. She has been a member of the EpicYOU program since its inception, and she actively participates in all of our activities. I know it could be scary to join a program, especially around drinking, and it may even sound like that would be not fun or somehow very heavy. But what I think you'll find in listening to how Lizzie describes it, it's so much more than that. And we really focus on elevating your life. And what I mean by that is we focus on elevating you in your life. And if we can all be honest, we know that when we drink too much, we don't feel good about who we are. We don't feel good about how we're showing up. And as you know, it's not alcohol that's the problem. It's other things that are driving us to want to drink. And so my goal for this podcast is to really give you a sense and a flavor of what you will experience if you decide to join us inside EpicYOU. So without further ado, here's my epic and fun conversation with Lizzie. All right. So I am so excited to have my friend here, Lizzie, for the podcast. Hey, Lizzie, welcome to the podcast. And I'd love for you to start out by just telling the listeners a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Sherry. It's such an honor and a privilege to be here. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Lizzie. I live in New York City. I am a working mom, busy mom with 2 boys, full-time career, husband, juggling it. Right? Juggling it all.
Making it work.
Making it work. What we do as working mom. Yeah, that's my backstory. From Toledo,
Nice.
Ohio originally, but then living in New York most of my adult life. So love it.
Nice.
Love the city life.
And Lizzie and I have gotten to know each other quite a bit over the past couple of years. And so I want to go back to kind of like how we kind of first met, our dating story.
I love it.
When you were thinking, back and where were you at that it appealed to you to come and work with me and the Drink Less Lifestyle? I know that's how we first met when my first program and I was launching Drink Less Lifestyle. And I know you were unhappy with your drinking at that point. Can you take us back and kind of share, where you were at? What did your drinking look like? And then, kind of take us a little bit from there.
Great. I found my love for you on social media. I found you on social media and you were sort of this welcome in my living room. And I was drinking a lot, sort of living in New York City, socially with friends, balancing work functions, drinking out of boredom, not knowing why I was overdoing it. It was consuming, right? It was something that was not balanced in my life. And I think like any of us, we search for solutions, right? On the web these days, technology is so advanced. So if we're trying to lose weight, and I was just Googling and had read books and had certainly found tips. Like we all do that when we're looking to fix something. And you showed up in my social media feed. And when I heard you speak, I felt like I was listening to myself. You were so relatable. You were sharing your story and I saw myself in you. Literally said, that is who I am. I was sort of staring at myself in the mirror. And I said, I have to find out what she knows, right? So there's this fascination I think the brain has when you hear about somebody's experience. It's like, oh, I want that, right? Like if you tell me I have to go on a vacation in Mexico, I might go, maybe I might. But if you share your experience, like, wow, sounds like Sherry had a great trip. And you were sharing, and it really was something that I said, I have to talk to her.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's how I found you. And I made the
Yeah.
call.
Yeah. Do you remember what stood out? Like what part of my sharing or what's something that stood out that you're like, yeah, I want to learn more about that?
Right. I think it was sort of the drinking and not knowing how to stop, and tried giving it up, but that didn't work. Tried dry January, tried this, tried a cleanse, and realized, and I had tried all those things. And I think you shared until you found coaching and this line of work that really sort of changed your life.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
resonated. Just the way you were explaining your stories of how you were going through life with your daughter. My son's the same age as your daughter. So I was relating to the point you were in your life. And wow, I said, I want to know what she knows.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I find that, we all get bombarded with just give it up, just say no, just control the alcohol, just do these dry things or dry months or detoxes. And I think we just get frustrated and disheartened over time when they're not working long term. And really changing, like, the messaging around that is not bad in terms of like short-term success. But for me, I know for so many other people, it just hasn't really been sustainable and what's really led to long-term success.
Which I think is what's frustrating for us all, right? And whether it's with drinking or a habit or something that's sort of overtaking you, and you're so smart in other areas of your life and you just can't figure this one thing out. And it's a head scratcher, and your brain will tell you all these sort of crazy things about why you're doing it, or you just don't know why. And you want a solution that's sustainable, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So talk about like some of the things that you've learned going through this. Like, what are some big ahas? Yeah, I know now you're a part of EpicYOU, right? So just for the listeners, Drink Less Lifestyle is still available. It's just a course or a component within EpicYOU. So you still get access to all of that, but you get access to so much more. So I'd love for you to talk about, what have you learned on this journey and being in EpicYOU? What are some of the pearls, maybe early on, and then as you've stayed in the program for a while, some of the pearls that kind of are working for you?
Sure. So when I think about how I wanted to describe EpicYOU, I and I love analogies, and I think about a pie chart and our lives. And in that pie chart, there's a part of we know what we know, right? So in that part of the pie chart, I know how to sell advertising. That's what I do for a living in New York. I know how to navigate New York City. I know Orange Theory Fitness. And then I know what I don't know. I don't know heart surgery. I don't know how to speak the Chinese language. I don't know how to build a house per se. And then there's that other part of the chart, which I've learned through EpicYOU. It's what you don't know, you don't know. And what I discovered, that is the magic of where your work sits, in my opinion, and where it lives in that sort of chart of wow and aha, and no, it can't be that easy, right? And so I think for me, that was where the secret sauce was, right? And for me, learning and not being able to read about this and not being able to study this and not being told this sort of purposeful intention with our thinking and bringing our mind into our work of fixing things. And that was the holy grail for me, right? So that was the piece of the puzzle where it just felt so new and interesting, and as if I was learning a new line of work or something I had never known before. And I think when I look at EpicYOU, I think of it somewhat as like a locker room, right? Like you're the coach and we're the players and we're the ladies, and we create this forum together where you come in there, right? And we're playing this game of life, if you will, right? It's like we're not playing football, but we're kind of going through life, and stuff comes at us and our day doesn't go as planned. And we're in there feeling heard, feeling loved, feeling uplifted, feeling special, feeling important. And we feed off of each other to create this beautiful form. And you, as the coach with ultimate superpowers, I do believe you have them, really, really tie it up and create the music, right? You're orchestrating all of us in there. And that's magical for me. And what I love, and then I was thinking this analogy, I go, when we're in it together on our monthly calls, all of the tools you've created, like I call those the playbooks, right? The worksheets in the book, whether it's on relationships or designing your year or enjoying being you, sort of those are the tools I like pull off the wall as I'm playing this game of life every day. And I think what's special is that we all come in there with different stuff. It doesn't always have to be about drinking. And we get better as we play, right? We're coming into EpicYOU once or twice or 3 times a month, and we're getting better and we're learning tools. And it's not always perfect, and we don't always play perfectly. But there's these things now that we've learned that are up in our head that make us choose. We can make some choices with intention. And that for me was really a wow factor moment, right? And being to explore so many different venues of the life that we are living, the game we are playing every day, and just show up differently.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I like how you said that, being really mindful and intentional. I know that it's so easy to be in this default, right? Where you kind of get in a rut or a routine or habitual way of being, a habitual way of thinking, a habitual way of feeling, which leads to a habitual way of acting. And having a space to explore, how would that look differently? And I want it to be different in this area or that area of my life. And how do I get there? What is that playbook to get there? And I do love how you pointed out that in our community, it really twofold is it's really not all about alcohol.
Right.
Alcohol makes up a small percentage of actually what we talk about. We talk about real life and how that's messy and how to navigate it. And I know on our last call, we were talking around religion and our kids decide maybe not to follow the religion or ways that we are instructing them, and how that breaks our hearts and ways we can empower them to, find their way. And we can't just silo off drinking because we want to run to alcohol as a solution, right? And so if we don't look at these other areas of our life that, are a bit off track or maybe unexpected or not going the way we want it to go, or maybe, not on the timeline that we want to go, it's really coming back to saying, okay, I don't want to push my kids away from religion. And I feel like I'm doing that if I'm cramming it down their throat or whatever actions that we're taking. We just want to look at them and say, I know it's not giving me the results that I want, or I know this way of being around alcohol is not giving me the results I want. And how can I empower myself in this loving, supporting container so that I can make different decisions? And then it's like what always you bring to the calls, which we always so enjoy, is the fun and the ease which we can make these changes. It doesn't have to be like something that takes forever or we have to wait till our kids change. No, we can take so much control. And I know some people have an issue with control. Some people love it. Some people are like, but it's really being like the change agent in your life, right? Really stepping up and owning that piece that we can contribute to better our lives. Yeah. And get the relationships and results that we want.
I love that you brought up the moment from last weekend with my son, because in the moment when we were talking about religion, I used the tools from EpicYOU in the moment to manage the conversation, not perfectly, but definitely better than I would have had we not had the work that you provide. And then I came to the call, bringing it up because it was still bugging me, and we fixed it right then and there. And I lost that soundtrack that had been playing since Sunday. It went away because I still had that soundtrack going, right? Sometimes I think we go through life like my son likes to play pinball, and sometimes I stand by the machine. I'm like, sometimes could that be us? Do we go through life just like that ball, just pinging around, like stuff's just happening? Boom, I just got hit in the head here. Oh, wow, I didn't expect that. I'm just bouncing around. And no, right? There's those two things on the side of the pinball machine that control the ball, right? So sometimes I think, wow, the ball's our brain. Things aren't we're not on autopilot. We aren't just the way we are, right? We do steer the course, yet I don't think we know how to see that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Or always tap into that, right?
Right.
And it's not to say we're going to be intentional 100% of the time because gosh, that would be really exhausting. But you really want to be intentional about certain things in your life, things like your health and things like your wealth and things like your relationships, things that actually bring you meaning, significance, and purpose and joy in your life. And when things are not on track with that, how can you steer the ship? How can you change that rudder just a bit so they get back on track? So if we could just pivot a little bit, I'd love to get your take on a couple of things. But first, we'll start off like you've been in EpicYOU for a while. What makes you stay? Why do you enjoy? What do you enjoy about EpicYOU? Because it is a month-to-month program, so you can come and go as you like. And I know you've chosen to stay. And we love it that you were there. And just, I want to hear what you are getting from the program that makes you want to be a part of it.
Great question. So many things. What comes to mind quickly is I get better every month. I become a new identity, a new me, a new way of looking at things that I never knew how to look at. Blinders were on. I get a space of being me and feeling so loved, so supported. I walk away smarter. I walk away taller. I walk away, wow, like I just got so much information in such a short period of time that I can take and apply to the game of life this week or the game of life tomorrow or what I'm walking into tomorrow that I thought was going to be really difficult. And my mind was playing the track of difficult, but we just fixed it like, poof, right? So I appreciate the topics, the different sort of topics that you've built within the library that we did a lot last year, and we can kind of pull from that depending on what's happening. And all of our lives are different. And I love how all the ladies think differently. And I get to sort of tap into, wow, I'm going to pull what she said and try that, right? So we try different baseball caps on, but I just think it's the kind of work, I just liken it to whoever you admire, right? Sometimes I look at Tony Robbins and go, wow, would like to talk to him every day. How much better but yeah, you're my Tony Robbins. So I've already won the lottery. Don't need Tony, I have Sherry. But I just think we all want to level up our lives, whether we talk about it or don't. Every day, we're always saying it to ourselves in some way, shape, or form. And for me, I commit to that. I commit to being better for me, my family, my kids, myself, choosing differently. And I don't ever want to leave. I don't ever want to leave because I've got so much more to learn and so many new ways to think, right? Again, I sort of go back to you've taught us so well that this way of this sort of intentional thinking and really kind of tapping into how powerful our brain is drives actions and then drives results. And I want results in my life. I don't want to sit in a space of confusion. I don't want to sit in a space of, I don't know how to figure this out. And even when my brain goes back to the old ways of Lizzie or the other, my brain knows how to pop out of that. I now know how to pop out or how to pivot. And that is priceless. So I continually want to sharpen that, right?
Yeah, I love how, I call it decrease the refractory period, where you're like staying stuck or you're in a rut, right? And learning these tools so you can decrease that time that you're off course, off track, stuck in a rut. And so decreasing that refractory period, where you're off track is so key to so many areas of our life. And I love it that we can teach it to our kids. We could teach it to others. Yeah, I'm with you that these skills just keep enhancing your life.
Now, and I think it's a lot like an Olympian, right? So Olympians don't become Olympians overnight. And I think kind of early on, kind of jumping in, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have this fixed in like 2 days, right? We all love everything fixed that's not working for us. And what I learned is sort of the process, and you'll have things you sort of move through quickly or predicaments or ruts or I want to change this. And then other things kind of take more time. Like as you look at all the pieces of your life, and like Olympic athletes don't ever stop training until they retire, even when they're at their best and strongest. And so I kind of look at that as I want to be the athlete of my life. I want to continue, even when I have tough days out on the field, right? Not every sports athlete has a great game. We're never going to have always great days of life, but I'm always sharpening the way I drive the boat in the face of adversity. And that, to me, you can't buy that, and you can't get that. That's where your work is so magical to me, Sherry, because I would never have known how to level up had I not sat through EpicYOU. Now, here's the thing, right? I am the master of filling my brain with information. Listen to every podcast, absolutely love it. But that's just a piece. Like, I love that we all, as listeners of it, we have all this access to your podcast, and you have introduced such amazing work. But that's level one, right? And that's the point of entry. And that's where we're all getting curious. But once you dive in and get into the program, start playing the game of life. Don't just sit on the stands, where I was for a long time. I'm like, oh my God, I get an A. I just listened to a podcast, or, oh, I just read another book, right? It's working the work. So I always say you got to work the work. And so level two is, if you really want to dig in deeper to your life, to anyone who's listening, the podcasts are great. Keep doing them for anybody that you're interested in. But now it's time to do the work. Now it's time to be the athlete of your life. Is how I look at it.
Yeah. It's kind of like putting in the reps, right? You got to do the reps if you want the biceps.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And that's what we mean by doing the work, right? You got to just put in the reps and the practice. And that's how your life begins to up level. And, it may be slow to start. It may be fast to start, but at least it's starting, right? It's like you said, getting off the bystander, standing on the sidelines and saying, no, I'm committing now. I am in. I want to change and get back on track, or steer the rudder of it, and empowering yourself with those tools. So good. So good. So let me ask you, is there like a result or two that you've experienced in your life from doing this work that you can share with the listeners?
So many. I think one of my favorites is how I speak to my children, how I parent, how they feel heard more, how I can come to their level and relate to where they are at the point in their life, right? And that's what I also love about this work, is that, again, you meet us where we are in our lives, wherever we are. And that, to me, the relationships with my family members have never been better, just in terms of the listening before responding. Using the work in that fashion has just been so enjoyable, to be around my children and to manage parenting in a more fun way. Number one. I think for me, the other point is I have come out to sort of, and you have helped me realize that I am a leader in my life, and that I can do big things. And I've thrown my hat over the wall and tried different things like stand-up comedy that I never would have tried had I not been reminded by somebody else about my confidence, how I show up in a room, how people look at me. Really, just, I think that's the point of the group, right? The forum of people sort of seeing you in a way that you don't see yourself, and making you feel bigger than you've ever imagined. And I will say, with my drinking, it's still not perfect, right? But there are so many better days, and there are so many new ways of having it in my life that make me so much happier.
Yeah.
There's so much more control.
Yeah. And I remember for you, of one of the caveats that kind of flipped your switch on the drinking, because we all have to find our individual switches, right? We all come to drinking a little differently, or rely on it a little differently in our life. But a key switch for you, I remember, happened a couple of months ago, maybe even longer than that. I don't know, time elapses, but was looking at it from a wellness strategy, and actually you were the impetus for that podcast that I came up with. And just, how does alcohol fit into the overall health and wellness? Because I know health is such a big thing for you. You're avid person that works out and loves working out and finds it fun and finds it enjoyable and loves the competition of it. And when you made that connection, it was like, oh, I see how I'm okay with staying away from ice cream or cake, but I don't look at alcohol the same way. And why does it get this hall pass? And why does it get exempt out of this wellness strategy when it should be in? It should be categorized in. And I know that was a lever for you that really kind of catapulted more success around and confidence around alcohol.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, Sherry, because correct. Again, what I didn't know was that my brain was feeding me information that seemed logical to me, but really wasn't. Until I started talking to my brain and talking to it in a way that, oh my goodness, like alcohol is no different than a pack of donuts. And I don't need a pack of donuts. Right. So correct, right? It's the training, it's the retraining, it's the conversation, it's the thoughts, it's the thinking and the believability in it that starts getting you feeling empowered, feeling, this is what I want to believe. Yes. Why didn't I see that? Right? Why did I not see that? Right. So thank you for sharing that. And we feel sometimes so silly for not seeing it, but that's what a coach is for. That is what this work is for, is to really get you to think and use your brain in a way you just never knew how to. It's really that simple to me. In sort of, people will say, manage your mind, be mindful. I know how to do that. You really don't until you walk in the space of EpicYOU. Again, it's what you don't know, you don't know. And that's the magic. And it takes different words and different thinking and different mind and different everything for different brains. And that's so fascinating to me. Yeah. I love when you'll say, well, this is what works for me. And I'll go, my brain doesn't like that. Right. But what works for you doesn't work for me or doesn't work for some of the other ladies. And then to analyze why is, again, another level of fascination. Right. So we all are individual. We all need our onion peeled back. We all need to be sort of steered and guided. And it's not hard. And there's nothing to be afraid of. And it does take some time. And there are no clicks. A lot of us sitting there and we're like, I'm just not feeling it, or I don't get it, or I'm not there. And then it's like, oh, okay. So yeah, I think that was a big one for me. But again, needed coaching, needed to be redirected, right? Needed for someone to really peel back Lizzie and who she is. That was a really awesome moment in time.
Yeah. And really seeing where this comes from. I mean, I love how you show up in the group. So does all the other women. And, we're just willing to explore what goes on in our brain. It's not shameful. We don't have to feel bad, and I know growing up in that culture, right? New York City, right? Drinking is what people do and many other cities. And so really looking at how that got a hall pass on your brain and then how to change that dialogue. So the brain's not like, oh yeah, I get to have unlimited amounts, or then you feel bad about yourself the next day and, all of that. So really changing that conversation so that you can feel empowered and confident.
Agreed.
Yeah. So as we wrap up this podcast episode, and thank you so much for sharing all those great points, is there anything else that you want to share with the audience as we conclude today?
If I could say it, and I'm saying it so authentically and from the heart, it like tears me up. Go for it. Throw your hat over the wall. Give yourself permission to join this amazing group of people, to tap into yourself. And to tap into where you want to go, where you don't want to go, where you want to be, and really believe in the power of change. Because I think a lot of us are afraid we just can't, and you can. And I think everybody listening here deserves that gift to themselves. And invest in yourself, right? We should always be doing that. And I truly believe, and I hope, and I would give out my phone number if you were to join, and if you had kind of the transformational experience that I had and I'm currently having every week and every month. I'd love to hear if anything that I said today moved the needle. But as I always say, right, you're either on the court of life or you're playing the game. And come play the game. It will be uncomfortable, right? I call it purposeful discomfort. That's my favorite way to describe it. it will be not hard. It'll be, oh, I don't know. Oh my goodness. Wow. Oh, that feels so different, right? It's because you're shaking yourself up, right? You're no letting that pinball just bounce through the machine. You're controlling it. So give yourself that gift. And whether you need to gift it to yourself as a Christmas gift, a stocking stuffer, whatever, just do it. Just do it. I have nothing more to say than your life, I can promise you, will be better, will be greater, will be bigger, better, faster. And you will come to EpicYOU and you're going to be touched, moved, and inspired.
Love that. You will be epic, right?
You will be epic. For sure. And you will have some fun along the way. We are not always such a serious group, right? We laugh, we cry, we make jokes. We keep it real, right? And that's what life is all about. We keep it real. And it's so nice to know that we're all going through it together and we're playing our best game that we can, right? Yeah. We're all just trying to play the best game that we can. And I just think if for all the listeners out there, I know you love Sherry like I do. Come into the room, come into the locker room, come through the door, give it a shot. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain.
Oh, well, I love you so much, Lizzie. It's been so fun being in EpicYOU with you and watching your growth and sharing my growth as well. It's just so fun to support one another. And so I really appreciate your time on coming on today. Thank you.
It was my pleasure. And I do it 100 times over. So have me back.
Love you, Lizzie. Thank you.
You too, Sherry. Okay.
If you want to change your relationship with alcohol and with yourself, then come check out EpicYOU. It's where you get individualized help mastering the tools so you can become a woman who can take it or leave it and be in control around alcohol in any situation. EpicYOU is the place for women who want to be healthy, confident, and empowered to accomplish their goals and live their best life. Come join us over at EpicYOU.com/EpicYOU. That's EpicYOU.com/EpicYOU. I can't wait to see you there.